Do you ever wonder what a mess I make when I'm in here cooking all day? Well, I have a huge mess. It's Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, I like to cook food for the family and do drop-offs. Many of our adult children live in this town, and they have little ones that are running around, and some of them are out working all day. And I thought it might be fun to have something for them to come home to at the end of the day, at least one day a week. So today, I've been cooking one of the family's favorite meals. It's a Syrian dish, one that they all grew up with, so it'll feel special to them when I drop it off. It's called kibbeh. If you've never had it, you're in for a treat because it's really good. As you can see, I have dirtied up lots of big pots, lots of baking pans. We've got rice pans that have been cooking. It's a bit of a mess in here, but I'm going to get it cleaned up before I go and take everyone their dinner. As you can see in my refrigerator, I've got everyone's food ready to go. Yay! Here we are. Everyone has a plate, everyone has a dessert, and everyone's going to have something special for breakfast. So that's what I like to do on Wednesdays for my family. Would you like to join me in the kitchen while I make kibbeh? It's a great dish. It's meat, it's lamb. In fact, I have just one little teeny sample bite just for me before I drop it off. I like to stuff the center with pine nuts and onions. I got a nice little mound of rice here, and everyone will have some tzatziki to go with it. It's delicious and it's easy to make, but I think more important for my family, it reminds them of their heritage. So now that they are all married, they like to share their heritage with their wives and their husbands and have their little kids. So I'm going to be in the kitchen making kibbeh, and you can come and join me after I wash these dirty dishes. 1 cup of bulgur wheat for every 2 pounds of ground meat will soak overnight in water, lemon, salt, and garlic. Our wheat has been soaking overnight. It's beautiful. Look at that. This wheat is going to absorb the flavors from the meat, and so we don't want it to absorb too much fat, so that's why we get it puffed up and swollen as much as we can, because lamb is very fatty and we don't want this wheat to be filled with just lamb fat. So we're going to squeeze all the rest of the juice out of here, and we're going to start to mix our kibbeh. I'm going to start the filling for the kibbeh. Now remember, this recipe has been supersized because I'm cooking for 4 families. And to the melted butter, we're going to add minced onions. I've got about 3 large ones here. Very large ones, actually. Now that our wheat has soaked, we are ready to mix the kibbeh. I have 10 pounds of ground minced lamb in here. For a recipe that you would probably be using at home, you're only going to need 2 pounds. But I'm cooking for 4 families, so I've supersized everything. And I'll try to keep you abreast with what I'm doing with this as we go along. And the first things we're going to do is just break up the lamb a little bit. One of the key factors in making kibbeh, which sets it apart in texture from so many other types of meatballs, is that once we have all of the ingredients together, we're actually going to knead the mixture, almost like you would bread. One of the other things to note about kibbeh is that it is traditionally also eaten raw, kind of like you would a steak tartare with beef. In the Arab world, kibbeh is served raw as an appetizer, mezea. It's called kibbeh, and oh, it's delicious if you like raw meat. Okay, now that we've got this broken down just a little bit, I'm going to put some of the spices in here. Traditions are always meant to be changed, and so oftentimes, as you see cultural foods travel their way around the world, you'll see people add and take away different spices and flavors. But kibbeh is always made with cinnamon, and remember, cinnamon is not sweet until you add sugar. It actually has a kind of a nutty, peppery flavor to it. Marjoram or oregano, plenty of salt, and I'm going to be adding a flavor I like in meats, and it's black cumin. Very different than the brown cumin you might be familiar with. We'll start with a little bit of the cinnamon. salt, black cumin, oregano or marjoram, whichever you have. And you're going to get dirty, and I usually wear gloves when I work with meat. There's no mixing this with a spoon. Just squeeze and incorporate the spices through there. And begin to work the meat the same as you would dough. Let's add a little bit of our wheat. We're going to squeeze whatever liquids are still left in there out. And we will continue to incorporate the wheat into the meat and knead it, adding little spices as we go until we have this ready. Let's take a quick peek at our onion mixture. Onion and butter. It's coming together beautifully. Okay, now to a regular sized recipe, you're going to be using 1 cup of pine nuts. To my supersized, I'm going to be using 5. So we're going to add this to the onion and butter and let it all mix together and start to brown just a little bit. And then we'll turn it off and let it cool. And when we're ready to start to stuff our kibbeh balls, they will be ready. Beautiful. The texture of our meat is beautiful. Everything has been incorporated. And now we're just going to roll these into little footballs. When we're finished getting all of the kibbeh balls shaped the way we want them, we are going to go back and stick our thumb right down the center, and then we're going to fill it with our pine nuts and onions. Close it back up, and when these are baked and you bite in, beautiful surprise in the center. Okay, we've got our kibbeh balls all rolled in our first tray. I've gone ahead and put a thumb hole down the center, and then we're just going to fill it with the pine nuts. Put a little in there and push it down. And close it up. Like that. We're going to do the whole tray.
We'll bake these at 350 for about 40 minutes until the outside is crunchy, golden, drain off the fat, and they're ready. Come join me.